Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers. I'm actually 3k away from that goal now, so if you have not subscribed yet, that would seriously be much appreciated, especially if you're someone coming over from my main channel who is consistently watching these videos but hasn't actually subscribed. Just go ahead and do that to make sure you get the rest of these videos. Also, I do have to mention before we get into this one, not going to be edited by Rudy this time around. Many of you have noticed and rightfully acclaimed Rudy for some of his edits lately, but I had to take over for this one because of some scheduling issues. So sorry, the edit's going to be worse, but you know, that's why I pay him. Anywho, I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets because for the last couple of weeks, I've really been feeling as the MVP conversation has been happening. I've been watching a good amount of Denver Nuggets games, and to me, I feel like this team has not gotten enough credit, both from national media and even from the new media, as they call themselves. The conversation around the Denver Nuggets has so much been dominated around Nikola Jokic and the MVP race. And of course, that's entirely understandable. Why would that not be the headliner here? Because the MVP race this year is, as I've mentioned in other videos, probably the most interesting and probably the best MVP race I've seen in years. And I get why you would cover that. I also understand that Denver is not generally a market that is targeted by sports teams or sports media people, rather. Sorry. The Denver Nuggets are not topping headlines consistently throughout NBA history, and even having an NBA MVP on the team, one of the most talked about players in the league, it seems, still doesn't really make the Nuggets as a brand that popular. It's really just all about Nikola Jokic, and as a result, little talk about the Denver Nuggets. But the thing is, if you watch the games from the Nuggets and leave the MVP race aside, don't just sit there and marvel on Jokic's insanity, although I understand why you would do that, and just really look at the Denver Nuggets as a team and what they're capable of doing. I feel like if people did that more, there would be more conversations about the prospect of this team competing for a championship this year, because I feel like that hasn't been the discussion. Like, if you watch a video of people talking about teams that are contenders, they're going to mention the Denver Nuggets, but it's almost like begrudgingly so, or just with like, yeah, I also have to talk about the Nuggets, but like, they'll talk about other teams with far more enthusiasm. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of this myself when talking about different teams on different levels, but like, I do feel as though the Nuggets deserve more like, hey, look at this team's pretty freaking phenomenal. So for those of you who might not be aware, let me explain why I have such an affinity for this team, and personally would rank them as the third best team in the league, the two best teams above them being in the Eastern Conference and having just had a ridiculous blowout of a game that has been making a lot of people question the Bucks. But that aside, didn't actually watch that game because I didn't tune in till halftime, and it was a 28-point lead at half, so didn't seem worth my time. Anywho, the Denver Nuggets are right behind those two to me as the third best team in the NBA. I do feel as though the Bucks and Celtics are like almost in a tier of their own above the Denver Nuggets, but either way, the Nuggets to me are the best team in the Western Conference. I could very easily see them not making the finals because just being the best team doesn't always mean you win, both because of injury circumstances as well as matchups. Sometimes you can be the overall better team, but a matchup goes the other way, and a team like the Phoenix Suns is one that I worry about for them because I don't know if Michael Malone is going to properly scheme the defense to not have Nikola Jokic get taken advantage of a ton. Contrary to popular belief, Nikola Jokic is a whole package defensively. Is not horrid, but if you put him in the wrong circumstances, he definitely can be. And great head coaches, ones that are like definitely like really, really good coaches, will manage to find a way to scheme around that for the most part. It's something that Brad Stevens did with Isaiah Thomas very effectively with the Boston Celtics, although of course that Boston Celtics team did have a better defensive core than the Denver Nuggets do, so it's not necessarily a one-to-one example. But either way, not letting your weaknesses be exploited that easily is something that I do worry about happening with them again, and the Phoenix Suns specifically. Of course, they did that to him in the playoffs before with Chris Paul and Booker just killing him in the pick and roll, Chris Paul in particular. And now, of course, you have the best mid-range shooter in the entire league on your team to make that even more of a problem. So yeah, getting exposed in the drop and all that, and not being able to switch or defend the perimeter, that might that issue is definitely exploitable. It's easily the biggest weakness the Denver Nuggets have, and I understand why it causes people to think lesser of Nikola Jokic. But again, to me, I ultimately think you put him in the right context, he's fine. And that's not the same as being a great defender. And I'm getting in the freaking MVP debate again here, but like, ultimately he can be fine. And you hope that the supporting pieces overall can put together a defense that is solid enough. This core of players has been good defensively before. In fact, I believe their defensive rating was pretty great going the first, like, in January or so, and then it really started to dip lately. Speaking of which, another major concern that does exist for the Denver Nuggets, I said, let me tell you all the things that I like about this team, and then immediately just started saying all the negatives, but whatever, we'll get to the positives in a second. I do worry with the fact that this team's been winding down. Post All-Star break, they have been not great. They have been middle of the pack on offense and defense. I think they're 14th in offensive rating and 18th in defensive rating. 18th in defensive rating is like relatively in line with what they've been this year. I think they're capable of being better defensively, but in the regular season, they might not try as hard. I do think the Nuggets will not. I think there are some people who act like the Nuggets are just going to be a wash defensively in the playoffs, and I don't think that's true. But offensively, being middle of the pack is a big concern, because that's not an issue for them, typically speaking. Because the reason why I love this Denver Nuggets team so much, and where I will open with the positives, is the offense and the fit of that offense really could not be more perfect. I always talk about, when I talk about the Nuggets, the connection that Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. have. It's as simple as this. Michael Porter Jr., his skill set is designed perfectly to be a phenomenal play finisher, and Jokic, of course, is a ridiculous playmaker. And specifically, Michael Porter Jr.'s play finishing skill set works really well with a big man posting from the mid to high post, or passing from the mid to high post, rather than a guard creating the shots and things like that. Like, less drive and kick, more I'm cutting back door, or I'm open for a split second from three and I'm one of the best shooters in the league and you're one of the best passers, so you can make the split second pass to get the split second shot up and he'll hit it. Because Michael Porter Jr. is a ridiculous three-point shooter, has been amazing from three this season. And again, the backdoor cutting and stuff, the finishing in the paint, all of that. Michael is great for that offense, and he's been a lot better defensively, to his credit. At least putting in the effort. His knowledge and understanding what's actually going to happen on the floor can be questionable at times, but in terms of actually trying, he's been much better in that department. Aaron Gordon's having the best season of his career, and it's not even a conversation. In fact, there is literally all-star talks about him. Defensively, he's a very reliable defensive forward at the bare minimum to very great sometimes. And then Jamal Murray's been winding up to being good slowly. Obviously, he has been recovering from a plethora of injuries, but been a lot better lately, finally hitting his threes on the season at a respectable clip at this point. Probably not going to get bubble Murray production in the playoffs, but I think you will get borderline all-star level production, in spite of the fact that Jamal's, of course, never been an all-star. And then the last starter, KCP, is the perfect fill-in there. Like, after you've got your wings who fill their roles offensively with the cutting and the shooting and all of that, not really creating off of the dribble that much for themselves, so Nikola Jokic's playmaking really makes up for that. Then you got Jamal, who can be the primary shot creator, in the perimeter shot creating sense, of course, and KCP fits right in as the shooter too. If you leave that guy open, you're screwed, and every other guy is a huge threat offensively. So the offense is flawless. It's impossible to double team Jokic because he's going to be kicking it out to any of those guys who have all been hitting their threes this year. Aaron Gordon's obviously the weakest link of them, but like, you're kind of going to get a good shot all the time. And if they can tighten up their defense going into things, I do think it would be possible for them to win a championship, but I pretty much am banking on it being the Bucks unless an injury stops that. And if it wasn't them, I would definitely be banking on the Celtics over the Nuggets. But after that, if those two pillars manage to fall or not be what I thought they were, then Denver might be winning a championship this year. And I feel like for a team that very much has a chance to do something like that, there would normally be more conversation about that fact. But rather, it's been dominated by an MVP conversation, which I get, but it's a little shameful that the other thing has had to be so dramatically overshadowed. But yeah, that is it. Shout out to me for editing this video, and goodbye.